He's doing what he's always done, but now it doesn't feel like enough. Because it isn't. You're just done pretending that lawn care is the same as emotional support. And you're lying awake at 3 a.m. worrying about college tuition and aging parents and whether your marriage is going to survive this season, and he's checking mowed the lawn off his mental list like he just won partnership of the year. You were the shock absorber and the buffer and the one who kept everything running smoothly, and honestly, that worked for you until it didn't. You don't just want him to do more, you want him to notice more and then do the things that actually lighten the load you're carrying now. Well, hey, friend, let's talk about the thing that has been making you feel crazy. He's not doing nothing. He's mowing the lawn, he's picking up dinner, he's handling his side of things. He's doing what he's always done, but now it doesn't feel like enough because it isn't. And the load has changed. You have changed. Things changed. And the marriage, it didn't change. It didn't evolve. And so you're left here standing here thinking, why does everything feel so off, even though nothing has technically changed? And the answer is this: it's not wrong. It's just outdated. What used to feel like partnership now feels like a checklist. What used to feel like love now feels like just going through the motions. And it's not that you're being ungrateful or that you're impossible to please. You're just done pretending that lawn care is the same as emotional support. This is episode 2 in the series, Marriage Conversations Midlife Besties Are Having But Afraid to Say Out Loud. So let's jump in. Well, last time we talked about that terrifying question that so many midlife women are asking. The question is, what if I don't even love him anymore? And we unpacked why that feeling isn't about the marriage being over. It doesn't signal that. It's about being buried underneath the weight of everything that you've been carrying alone. And so this week we're going to go a little bit deeper because here's what I keep hearing from women. He says he's helping, and technically he is. But it doesn't seem that way because it's not what I need. And I don't know how to explain that without sounding rude or ungrateful or starting a fight. And so today we're going to unpack 3 things. We're going to talk about why his version of effort doesn't land the same way. We're going to talk about how the invisible load evolved and why he hasn't evolved with it. And we're going to talk about what you actually need from him and how to find the language for it. So by the end of this episode, you're going to have words for what you've been feeling but couldn't quite name. So here's what probably is happening in your marriage right now. He's still doing the things he's always done. He picks up dinner when you're too tired to cook. He keeps the kitchen clean at night, some of the time, or maybe most of the time. He mows the lawn. He handles the cars. He takes care of his areas most of the time. And of course, he works. But when you say, I need more help, he looks at you like you're speaking a different language. But I am helping. What more do you want from me? And you want to scream because what he's doing, it doesn't touch the weight that you're carrying now. 10 years ago, maybe even 5, his contributions felt meaningful. They helped. The lawn mattered. Dinner mattered. Keeping the visible parts of life running mattered. But back then, you were juggling preschoolers and maybe elementary or junior high kids. And the physical tasks and the juggling, they were endless. And it was true. Someone needed to keep the grass from becoming a jungle. Someone needed to make sure there was food in the house. Someone needed to handle the cars, the trash, the basic necessities of life. And he did those things consistently, reliably, mostly. And back then it helped. It really did. But now you're drowning in decisions and worry and emotional weight, and he's offering you lawn care. Meanwhile, your teenager is struggling with anxiety, and he's asking if you saw how good the lawn looks. Your adult child just moved home after a breakup, and your husband is proud of himself for picking up pizza. And you're lying awake at 3 a.m. worrying about college tuition and aging parents and whether your marriage is going to survive this season, and he's checking mowed the lawn off his mental list like he just won partnership of the year. Now, let me be clear. What he's doing isn't wrong. It's just not relevant anymore. Because the load evolved, life got heavier, the problems got bigger, and the partnership just stayed the same. Here's the truth. What used to feel like love now feels more like a checkbox. But it's not because he stopped caring, but because what you need from him now is completely different from what you needed years ago. Back then, you needed him to handle the physical tasks, the heavy lifting, and some of the visible stuff. But now you need him to help handle the emotional weight, the conversation with the struggling teenager, the one that requires more than just try harder, the strategic thinking about your adult child's choices, the kind that keeps you up at night, the mental load of planning, anticipating, and problem solving before things become a crisis, and so you don't need him to mow the lawn. Let the grass grow. Seriously, there are things that really matter that need to be dealt with. You need him to sit in the hard stuff with you, to be present for the conversations that don't have easy answers, to worry with you and not dismiss everything as overreacting, to think ahead with you about what's coming, not just react when it's already here. But he doesn't know any of that because no one told him about all of those things, and no one told him that the game changed. The rule book from 10 years ago, it's simply outdated, but he's still following it because that's what worked before. And you've been too exhausted to explain it because explaining feels like one more thing you have to do, one more emotional task to add to the pile. And really, he's not all that good at listening. With all the complexities of life, your marriage feels more like a battleground these days anyway, so why bother? And so he keeps doing what he's always done, feeling proud of himself for being consistent and for showing up and for helping most of the time. And really, whether he doesn't do that stuff, it really feels all the same to you because you keep feeling invisible, unseen, unsupported, alone in the weight of what really matters, and the gap keeps widening. So, in a large way, what has happened is that 10 years ago, you had the margin to let things slide. If he forgot something, you could just do it yourself. If he missed the emotional subtext of a conversation, you could step in and smooth it over. If he didn't anticipate a need, you could manage it without falling apart. You were the shock absorber and the buffer and the one who kept everything running smoothly. And honestly, that worked for you until it didn't, because now your bandwidth is gone. Completely, utterly gone. You're maxed out, tapped out, running on fumes. And even small things feel huge because there's no room left to absorb yet another thing. And so the dishwasher he forgot to empty, well, 10 years ago, you would have just emptied it and moved on. But now it feels like the last straw. And it's not because you're being dramatic. It's because you're depleted. So let me paint you a picture of what depletion actually looks like. You wake up already tired. And before your feet hit the floor, you're mentally running through everything that needs to happen today. Who has what appointment? Who needs to be where? What's for dinner? What bills are due? What conversation you've been avoiding that you can't avoid anymore? Your body's changing. Your energy is gone. Your hormones, they're betraying you. Hot flashes wake you up at night. Brain fog makes you forget what you walked into a room for. And your patience is paper thin. You're managing teenagers or young adults with real problems like depression and anxiety and friend drama that actually matters now. Or maybe it's these adult kids who are struggling, relationships, ending, jobs falling through, life not turning out the way that they wanted. And you're worried sick about them, lying awake, wondering if they're going to be okay, if you did enough, if you said the right thing. Maybe you're managing aging parents who need you more and more. There's doctor's appointments and medication schedules. And really, there's the slow, heartbreaking realization that when it comes to your parents, the roles have completely reversed. And you're carrying the mental load of everyone's schedules and everyone's emotions and everyone's needs. You're the family calendar, the conflict mediator, the problem solver, the one who remembers everything and carries the weight of everything that no one else is tracking. And because of all of that, there's just nothing left. Your emotional reserves are empty and your physical energy are gone. Your capacity to absorb one more thing without breaking is non-existent. And so when he does the thing he's always done and it's not the thing you actually need, you snap. And it's not because you're mean, not because you're ungrateful, but because you don't have the bandwidth to absorb his obliviousness anymore. The dishwasher becomes the tipping point, not because it really matters, but because it represents everything that he has not been seeing. All the invisible labor, all the mental load, all the emotional weight that you're carrying alone. And when you finally say something, when you finally can't hold it in anymore, he thinks you're overreacting. And he says things like, it's just a dishwasher. Why are you so upset? Or he says, I was going to get to it. Or maybe he says, you're too sensitive. Maybe he says, why were you so easygoing 10 years ago? What happened to that person? And that makes it worse because what he doesn't understand is your frustration isn't about the dishwasher. It's about the depletion. It's about the fact that you've been asking and begging and hinting for him to see what you're carrying, and he's still focused on the lawn. And you've tried to tell him you're overwhelmed. You've tried to explain that you need more. You've tried hints and direct asks, everything, and nothing has landed. And so now you finally speak up, and it's loud and it's messy, and you're even angry. And when you do, he thinks you've changed. He thinks you're overreacting, too emotional, too critical. Because from where he's standing, nothing has changed. He's doing what he's always done. He's being consistent. He's showing up. But from where you're standing, everything has changed. You changed, your body changed, your capacity changed, the kids changed, the problems changed, the weight of life changed, everything evolved, and he hasn't noticed. And so, yes, you're speaking up now, maybe louder than you used to, but not because you're being difficult, but because you don't have the capacity to stay quiet anymore. Well, if you are in midlife and if you are married, listen up. You need this resource. I've got a new free guide, and it's called He Doesn't Get It Yet: How to Help Him See What You're Carrying Without Starting Another Fight. This free guide is going to help you identify what's really weighing on you, the invisible and the visible. It's going to help you understand why he hasn't noticed and why that's not entirely his fault. It's going to help you find language that helps him see what he's been missing. And it's going to help you start a conversation that might actually lead to real change. Because if your marriage feels like it's on life support, I want you to know that most husbands, they actually do want to show up for their wives. They just don't know how. They're still operating from the old playbook, and no one has even told them it's outdated. You can grab this free guide at Midlife Marriage's free guide, or check the show notes on this episode. So let me tell you about something that happened in my own marriage. We were in a really hard season. One of our kids was struggling, really struggling. Anxiety, depression, words like, I can't wait to leave and never come back. That kind of pain, it breaks a mother's heart. I was worried, lying sick at night, trying to figure out what to do, what to say, how to help, what I did wrong, researching therapists and reading articles and talking to other moms and praying and crying. And the weight was crushing me. And my husband, he was keeping the kitchen spotless on his days off. Every night without fail, he'd clean up after dinner, wipe down the counters, load the dishwasher, put everything away. And I'm sure in his mind, he was being helpful, supportive, a good partner. And those things did help. But I still wanted to scream, because what I really needed wasn't a clean kitchen. I needed him in the fire with me. I needed him to sit down and strategize. I needed him to say, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to help our kid? I needed him to be as worried as I was, or at least curious about why I was so worried. I needed him to research the therapist, or to sit in on the hard conversations, or to lose sleep over some of these things too. But he thought he was helping simply by keeping the kitchen clean. He thought his part ended at helping with some of these visible tasks so that life would be just a little bit easier for me. But meanwhile, I was drowning in all of that invisible stuff, the emotional chaos, the hard decisions, the weight of our kids' pain, completely alone. And that's what so many midlife marriages look like. He's doing these surface level visible tasks while making sure that his own needs are met, while she's carrying the real weight alone, and he has no idea. He genuinely thinks he's being a good husband, a good partner, because he's doing what he's always done. But what she needs now is completely different. She's not asking for more effort. She's asking for relevant effort. She doesn't need him to perform tasks. She needs him to be a co-strategist, to help her think through the hard stuff, to sit with her in the uncertainty, to show up for the emotional heavy lifting, not just the physical tasks. To say, what are you worried about right now? What do you need me to know about what's happening? What would it look like for me to actually help you with this? That's the shift that needs to happen, because here's the thing. The load grew up when the kids did. When your kids were little, the load is visible and physical. It's diapers and feeding schedules and bedtimes and laundry mountains that never end. The never-ending cycle of meals and messes and keeping tiny humans alive. He can help with all of that. He can see it. He can check it off. And when he does, it does feel like a partnership at that point. But when your kids are teenagers or young adults, the load becomes invisible, and it's not about diapers anymore. It's about the worry. It's about the fear for your kids' mental health, the strategic thinking about their futures, the emotional weight of watching them hurt and not being able to fix it. It's the hard conversations about grades and relationships and choices and consequences. The reality that you can't protect them from pain anymore. You can only walk through it with them. And that's if they invite you in. In the load of all of this, he doesn't see it, and it's not because he doesn't care, but it's because he's never had to carry it. You've been carrying it alone, always. You're the one lying awake at 3 a.m. worrying. You're the one researching and problem solving and anticipating what's coming next. You're the one having the hard conversations and holding space for big emotions. And he's mowing the lawn, and so when he picks up dinner or cleans up the kitchen, he genuinely thinks he's lightening your load. He genuinely thinks he's doing his part. And he is doing something, but it's just not what you need. Because what you need isn't task support. What you need is emotional partnership. You need him to ask, what are you worried about? What is weighing on you that I'm not seeing? How can I actually help with something that isn't visible? You need him to sit with you in the hard stuff, not to fix it, not to dismiss it, and not to minimize it, just to be present for it, to worry with you and think with you and carry it with you. You do not need him to perform being a partner. You don't need him to act like a partner. You need him to actually continue to show up and be that partner with eyes wide open and mind engaged and heart present. And when he does that, when he finally shows up for the real weight that you're carrying and helps you carry it, that's when you start to feel seen again. So here's the hard truth. Your marriage is feeling like it's breaking under the weight of old roles in a new season. The partnership model that sort of worked when your kids were little, it doesn't work anymore. Back then, the roles were clear. He handled the guy stuff. You handled the house, the kids, the scheduling. And honestly, that felt balanced because the load was manageable and life was simpler and you both had bandwidth. But now life is heavier. The kids are older. The problems are bigger and the emotional load is crushing you. But he's still operating from that old playbook. He's still doing the things that used to be partnership, not realizing that the roles had changed. And here's what happens. You get resentful. You start to feel invisible, unsupported, alone, and you start to wonder if he even cares, because if he did, wouldn't he notice? And he just gets confused. He thinks he's doing everything right. He thinks he's helping, and when you try to explain, he gets defensive. I just cleaned the entire kitchen. What more do you want from me? And so the gap keeps widening, because here's what he doesn't understand. The partnership has to evolve. The marriage can't survive on the division of labor from 10 years ago. It needs to evolve and change. The weight needs to be redistributed. It needs both of you to see what's actually being carried and who's carrying it. And right now, you're carrying most of it alone, and it's not because he's lazy and it's not because he's mean, but because he doesn't see it. And what you don't see, you can't share. And so here's what needs to happen. He needs to start asking questions. He needs to get curious. He needs to stop assuming that everything is fine just because the surface looks smooth. He needs to ask things like, what are you carrying right now that I'm not seeing? What would actually make you feel supported? What can I take off your plate? Not just in terms of tasks, but in terms of worry. And you need to stop holding it all together so he can finally see what happens when you don't. Not by letting everything drop, though sometimes it might take that, but just by being honest. By naming the invisible load, by saying, I need you to know that I'm not okay, I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed, and I can't keep doing this alone. Because here's the truth, it's not about blaming him, it's about inviting growth. If the marriage doesn't evolve to meet this new season, it may not survive it. And it's not going to be because the love is gone, but it's going to be because the partnership broke under the weight of outdated roles, and you both deserve better than that. So let's just bring this full circle. Why does everything feel so wrong, even though he's still doing what he's always done? Simply put, it's because what he's always done isn't enough anymore. But it's not because he's failing, but because the load has changed, and he didn't change with it. And so here's what you need him to understand. You don't just want him to do more. You want him to notice more and then do the things that actually lighten the load you're carrying now. It's not about these surface level gestures, the real relevant stuff. The strategic thinking about your adult child's choices, the emotional labor of sitting with uncertainty, the hard conversation with your teenager or your parent who doesn't want to admit where they are. You want him to see you, not just hear you when you're at your breaking point, but to see you before you break, to notice when you're quiet, when you're withdrawing, when you're sharp, and instead of pulling back and getting defensive, to get curious. What's going on? What am I missing? That's the shift that needs to happen. Not perfection, not him becoming a different person, just awareness, attunement, partnership that meets the season you're actually in. And here's what I've seen over and over again. When he finally understands what you need and why the old way isn't working anymore, things can start to shift. Not overnight, not perfectly, but slowly and steadily. And the distance that you've been feeling, it starts to close. Well, if you are in midlife and you are married and you find yourself asking the question, do I even want to be married anymore? Know that I've got an amazing resource for you. I've actually got two of them. I've created the Midlife Map for women and the Midlife Map for men. The Midlife Map for women is going to help you understand what's actually happening with you. We're talking about all of the physical, emotional, and all the changes that we women go through. And then there's the map for him. It's going to help you. It's going to give you the words to share with your husband about what is actually going on with you in a way that he can understand. It's going to help him know why mowing the lawn, it just isn't what you need anymore. What you need, it goes much deeper. Make sure you visit midlifemarriages.com to check out this amazing resource. In reality, you're not asking for too much. You're just asking for partnership that fits the life that you're living now, not the one that you were living 10 years ago. You're asking him to grow with you, to evolve with you, to see what you're carrying and help you carry it. That's not unreasonable. That's what marriage is supposed to be. But here's the hard part from where you are right now. He doesn't know any of this. He doesn't know that the load evolved. He doesn't know that what he's doing isn't truly helping. He doesn't know what you actually need because you haven't had the language to tell him until now. That's why I created the free guide. He doesn't get it yet. How to help him see what you're carrying without starting another fight. It's going to help you be able to, it's going to help put into words what you wish your husband knew. It's going to help you identify what's really weighing on you, the visible and the invisible load. It's going to help you understand why he hasn't noticed, and it's not entirely his fault. It's going to help you find language that helps him see what he's been missing and to start a conversation that might actually lead to real change. Because here's what I believe. Most husbands want to show up for their wives. They just don't know how. They're still doing the old things, and nobody told them it didn't work anymore. So give him the chance to understand. Download the guide. Read it together if you want. Use it to start the conversation. You can grab it at midlifemarriagesfreeguide.com or check the show notes below. And if this episode resonated, know that it is episode 2 of 10 that we are having in this series, all about the conversations that midlife besties are having, but they're afraid to say out loud. In the next episode, we're diving into the idea that it's not that I don't love him, it's that no one ever loved this version of me. We're going to talk about why midlife women feel emotionally homeless and what to do when you've outgrown your old identity, but no one's noticed. Until then, give yourself permission to name what you need. Know that you're not asking for too much. You're just asking him to show up for the life you're actually living right now. And it's time to invite him in. Until then, make it an intentional day.